Catholic Moments is sponsored by CatholicMatch.com, the leading Catholic singles community. Being single can be a challenge. Catholic Match helps make it a little easier. To get started today, visit CatholicMatch.com/Lisa.
Blooming, finding joy in the journey and hope in the heaven yet to come. Blooming.
Hello and welcome to Catholic Moments. And now, here's your host and my mom, Lisa Hendy.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Catholic Moments, the show from CatholicMom.com, where we talk about all things faith, family, and fun from a Catholic perspective. And we're on the road again this week for a show coming to you from Xavier University in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I'm here attending the National Association of Catholic Family Life Ministers. Wow, what a name of a big conference. We're here for a conference on marriage building and being a marriage building church. So I'm really excited to share my experiences here with you this weekend. This is really my first time in Cincinnati, and I'm finding it absolutely beautiful. It's a bit warm and humid here, but just a lovely campus, and the conference has been fantastic so far. Last night we were greeted by the Bishop of Steubenville, Ohio, who gave a wonderful opening prayer service and a great speech. He's a native of Cincinnati, and so he talked a lot about the area. And then a great talk by one of my favorites and a former Catholic Moments guest, Teresa Tomeo, who gave a keynote based on her book Noise, a lot about media saturation and our culture and how we can reach out and be activists in our homes and in society. So it was really nice to get a chance to meet Teresa in person and to hear her in person. And now today what I'm going to do is take you to the expo hall where we're going to meet some of the vendors that are here for the conference. I'll be doing some speaking tomorrow and Saturday. But until then, what I'm going to do is bring you along for a couple of visits with some of the people who are here talking to the couples and family life ministers and things. So we'll head over to the expo hall now, and I hope you enjoy that. First up at this week's wonderful conference, the National Association of Catholic Family Life Ministers, which is quite a mouthful for a podcaster like me, I ran into an old friend, and I'm so happy to be spending time with Kate Danilek of Making Music, Praying Twice. Hey, Kate.
Hi, Lisa. How are you doing today?
I am so happy that you guys are here. You and John are here to talk with the registrants at this conference about your ministry. But for anybody who may have missed our previous conversation, tell us a little bit more about Making Music, Praying Twice.
Well, basically, we are a music and movement program that parishes can use so they can run their own early childhood music and movement, meaning for children 0 to about 5 years old that come together with their mom or dad or a caregiver and have music classes there at the parish. And they also take home CDs and books and materials so that the whole class really comes into their entire home, not just into that one day that they're there at the class. And it's real music education designed based on research. And it's also a real community building experience for these families because they're coming together with other Catholic moms and dads and watching their children grow together, which is really an amazing experience, but also praying together with music, which is, a powerful experience that goes beyond anything, we really could have imagined, and what we're seeing happening in the families and in the community that we're building in these classes, and then back to the parish.
So, Kate, I know that along with being a vendor and an exhibitor here, you're actually also speaking. And tell us a little bit about what you're going to be saying to the people who come to your workshop this weekend.
Okay, well, we're going to talk to the different ministers who are here about designing ministry for families with very young children. And the title of my talk is From Baptism to CCD, The Lost Years. And basically, we keep hearing ministers lament about, and pastors lament, how families come to them to baptize their children and then sort of disappear until CCD. And then they get relatively unprepared young children ready for CCD and unprepared parents to necessarily back up what they're trying to do at home. So what we're suggesting is, like we've done with Making Music, Praying Twice, and I've also developed other ministries for very young families, and some of which have been, stronger than others. And learning from those mistakes and in the model that we've developed here, breaking that down to say, what are the elements that we need to do to design really effective quality ministry that a parish can run for parents of very young children that include the whole family, and give them a place and something to do, someplace to go that includes their children there at the parish, so they can become a part of parish life right away, right when that baby is baptized and they're a new family and everything's new and they're starting off on a path of how that family is going to go for the rest of their life. We're saying, get them now. This is the time. And there's some beautiful conversion stories of families and parents who've come back to the church after veering away. But let's do it the way God really wanted us to do it, and get them now, whether a young family, a child's meant to grow in faith with their family, in their family. And we'll refer to Saint Therese a lot in this.
Oh, my favorite.
Isn't it? I know.
As our listeners know, me and Deacon Tom were Saint Therese groupies. So I guess what I'd like to ask you, since we're at this conference where the focus is really on marriage and family life, but particularly marriage this week, how can a program like Making Music Praying Twice, I know the answer to this, but I want you to say it to our listeners, how can a program like this really strengthen a marriage and a family?
Well, when you bring faith to a family, that's when strength comes, right? Because our ideas in our society right now of marriage and of love aren't enough to sustain somebody through the trials of life in a marriage. And I think our divorce rate can attest to that. It's really, you need to know what's deeper and why marriage is important. You need to know why commitment needs to outlast feelings. You need to know the basis of the sacrament that you've undertaken together. One of the things that's really happened very recently to us is we're getting these mothers coming to us telling us about their husbands. And that is, I find it really moving, but because our materials go home, and I think that's really key, that it has to be something where it's not just about that little time in class. It has to be something that permeates home life. We are giving some sort of skill that goes back into the home life. But with us, it's the materials. It's a CD that they've paid for and that they value and that the child is listening to again and again.
And again and again.
And again and again. If you've ever taken an early childhood music
I've had
program,
3-year-olds, I know.
like kinder music or music together, you know it's on all the time.
Yeah.
So with that, dad and older brothers and sisters are also exposed to this music, which includes the music of our Catholic culture, from Gregorian chant through the hymns that we use and even contemporary Christian songs that are used. So we're hearing things like a mother who came to us and said, my husband doesn't pray. And it was a very poignant thing that she was saying. Mm-hmm. The pain in her face when she said it made it very clear that this was, the tragedy of her heart, to see this man she loved more than anything not have what she has in her relationship with the Lord. And she told us that she found him on the porch one night with the songbook, their child's songbook, picking out the music on his guitar. And the tears filled her eyes just talking about it, and how it's just that little connection for him and what that's meant for her, kind of seeing that. Another mother was telling us how her husband had never heard of the Divine Mercy before. And now, because the CD's in the car, her husband's praying that with his 3-year-old son and singing that with him. And that is about a whole family. And without a marriage, without that relationship, without everyone knowing why they're really there, once everyone knows why they're there and God's in the equation, that's where the strength of a marriage comes from. So
beautiful, beautiful stories. And I know that there's so much more inspiration at your website. And I want you to give the web address so that people can come over and visit you and learn more about how they can bring this to their parishes and dioceses.
Well, it's makingmusicprayingtwice.com, all one word, makingmusicprayingtwice.com. And there's a lot of information for both families. We have a family edition if families just want to do it in their own home, and also information for bringing it to a parish. And we actually are working with dioceses now to help them with local training and information sessions so that they can bring it to the parishes in their diocese more easily and not have to always fly to New Jersey.
Well, be our foot soldiers, guys. Head over to makingmusicprayingtwice.com ClubTheCatholic.com and check out the great resources there. And thanks again to Kate and John for being here this week.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for all you do at CatholicMom.com.
Next up at the NACFLM conference, we've got Joan Stromberg, who is the founder of a wonderful organization that many of you know of, Behold Publications. Hi, Joan.
Hi, Lisa.
It's so nice to be here with many of my Facebook friends. I just spoke with Kate, and you and I have been friends on Facebook and online for several years through the great work that you're doing. Tell our listeners a little bit more about what they'll find when they visit Behold and your resources.
Well, we have two main product lines. We have our Catholic clubs for kids, our Behold Christ clubs. They include Little Flowers Girls Club, which is the most popular, Blue Knights Boys Club. Those are both for ages 5 and up. And then we added the Little Women Hospitality Program and our Ladies Honor Guard, which are for ages 10 and up and 13 and up.
And this is almost like a scouting type of a program that people can take and bring into their parish or their homeschool community.
Yeah, exactly. The main difference is that we just offer the program materials. There's no national organization or registration of groups, so you just take the materials and use them as whatever you see fit. So you can buy as little or as much, whatever fits your needs, your program, your school, your parish, whatever.
Do you have any sense of how many families around the country are involved in this?
Well, we have a Little Flower online leader support group that has about 1,000 leaders on there. And by my sales worldwide, I'd say there's probably about 5,000 Little Flowers and a little bit less for the Blue Knights. But we actually sell all over the world, including Australia. We just got an order from Norway. Belgium, a lot of military families, so it's really all over the world.
Isn't that wonderful? I wanted to be a little flower. I had to be a campfire girl. I wish I could have been a little flower. Tell us, we're here at this marriage building conference, how the resources that you offer, including the books that you have, might support people in their marriage and family life.
Well, the books are really based on the Catechism of the Catholic Church, saints' biographies, and Scripture. So it really reinforces a lot of the teachings of the faith, and it's in a fun, faith-filled setting so that the kids are really encouraged in their faith and encourage each other in learning virtues and points of catechism and how to really be raised as good Catholic men and women.
And I know that you have many authors, one of whom is, I'm a big fan of hers, Maureen Whitman. What are some of the more new resources or books that you're offering?
Well, we have a product line that is called the Glory of America series, and that is teaching American Catholic history, which really there's not too many people who teach American Catholic history. So this series of historical fiction is on American saints, including Elizabeth Seton, Mother Cabrini, St. John Neumann, and Blessed Francis Sealos. And along with that, we have a resource by Maureen Whitman called For the Love of Literature, and that helps teach different aspects of different subjects using real books like our Glory of America series. And we're in the process of putting together a new series called Princesses You Can Believe In, and this series will be on royalty who were saints, and there'll be a whole product line with dresses for American girl-sized dolls and games and different things that girls can really get into and be challenged and loved for being princesses of the King, our God Christ.
I've signed up for that one. I want to be a princess when I grow up. So I think those books sound so fantastic. I can't wait. I'm interested in historical fiction myself, so I can't wait to read your new American series. And tell us how people can get a hold of the products if they're interested.
Well, we have an 800 number. It's 1-866-305-8362, or you can catch us online. We're still at echehomopress.com, which is ECCEHOMOPRESS.com, or littleflowersgirlsclub.com will also get you there.
Great. Joan, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great time here this week and that lots of families get a hold of the great resources that you're offering.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'm here at the Worldwide Marriage Encounter with Marty and Barbara here from Cincinnati to represent this wonderful organization at the conference, and on a marriage building conference that makes perfect sense that Marriage Encounter would be represented. Marty, would you tell us a little bit more about what folks will find when they come here to visit your exhibit?
When they come here to visit our exhibit, they'll find several different types of brochures and a bunch of advertising type material to get their interest. They'll find a knowledgeable couple the whole time of the conference is going on that they can speak to and ask questions. And the brochures pretty much have got everything they need to know in it as far as finding out about it and getting any local contacts if somebody wanted to take it back to their area and try to find where it is and where they live.
Barbara, how did you guys get involved with Marriage Encounter?
We made a Worldwide Marriage Encounter weekend in January of 1992, and we've been involved ever since. It really did change our lives individually and definitely as a couple. I mean, we really think it's the best thing we've ever done for our marriage.
How I have to say I've never been on a Worldwide Marriage Encounter weekend. Husband, if you're listening, you should take me. But my mom and dad actually in the early 70s were an early marriage encounter couple, and I can remember them coming home and dialoguing, and it was like do not disturb time. What are some of the ways that Marriage Encounter teaches families to sustain their loving marriages?
For the entire marriage, or I mean the couple or the family?
Well, I'd say what can a married couple do to kind of, retake their marriage if they're needing to refocus a little bit?
Okay. Well, starting with going on a weekend is perfect because it's time to just focus on the two of you, and there are no distractions at all, so it's perfect for that. And that's what it did for Marty and me because we were able to get away from our kids and all the busyness with their schedules because we let them take priority, for all those years. So knowing that it's back to just the two of us is huge. And our kids saw an immediate effect when we came back from our weekend and realized that we were really putting focus on the two of us. And they found a lot of comfort in that, knowing that we were committed to each other. And it just flows down to your children and other people around you.
I think there's a real sense of security that kids have when they can look at their parents and think, okay, my friends' parents are always yelling at each other and my parents have good communication. So, Marty, what do families do if they want to find out more about Worldwide Marriage Encounter?
They go to wwme.org.
And is it pretty much
all kinds of things?
Pretty much the same thing worldwide, or does it vary by diocese?
That particular website is a national and Canada now website that will give you the option to find the encounter in your area as well as having the general information about the whole program.
And husbands who are out there listening, I want to say that this would be a really nice surprise for your wife if you kind of looked into this and surprised her maybe. A lot of times the wives take the initiative with things like this. Barbara, any last words of wisdom for married couples who are listening?
It took us several months to finally decide to go. We talked about it, thought, that might be something good to do sometime in the future. And the time is right for various people at various times. So if your heart tells you it's time to go, or if you're thinking, gosh, that would be nice, but I don't think that's for me. That was the way I felt about it. And once we were there, we knew that it was the right thing to do.
So if you're waiting for it to be convenient, in other words, just go ahead and do it. Well, thank you guys so much for being here and for the work that you're doing for married couples.
One thing for the
we need one last word of wisdom out there.
One last word of wisdom. If one of you wants to go and the other one doesn't want to go, that's a real good sign that it's probably time to go.
Okay. Yeah, that's really smart.
And there's nothing scary that happens on the weekend. All you do is learn how to communicate in a way that's not as confrontational as we usually communicate when we have issues or things we don't want to talk about.
So there's no forced kissing, right?
No, there's no forced public displays of affection or anything. But if one of you wants to go and the other one doesn't, go.
Well, thanks you guys so much and have a great time here.
Thanks.
Longtime readers of CatholicMom.com will know that we've offered for many years a recommendation of some great books by a well-known Catholic mom and author Sheila Kipley, and she and her husband John are here this week at NACFLM sharing with information about their great organization, NFP International. John, let me have you start off by just letting us know a little bit more about the resources from NFP International.
Well, we have a manual that we consider as the most complete NFP instruction easily available. It's a book called Natural Family Planning, The Complete Approach. We have a home study course for just people who just want to learn for themselves. We have another home study course for engaged couples where they have to do a little more work to show that they actually have understood the matter and pass some little easy tests and so on, and with a certificate that'll go to the priest who has required them to take the course. And we have a number of books at our website. We have a website which is one of our great resources.
What's the web address?
nfpandmore.org, and the and is spelled out.
Great. Sheila, I have to ask, for the moms out there who are all really big fans of your writing, what inspired you to write on the topic of breastfeeding? And, what do you think about how many lives you've been able to touch with your writing?
Well, to begin with, I went to La Leche League meetings with pregnant with my first baby, and I heard that breastfeeding can space babies. I asked my Catholic OBGYN about this, and he says, Sheila, no matter how you breastfeed, you're going to have your period within 3 months. Having attended La Leche League meetings, I did nurse frequently day and night, but my periods came back within 3 months. So I started to do research, and I realized there's a lot more to it. And so that's how I eventually developed ecological breastfeeding. At that time in the 70s, everyone was talking about ecology. And you figure, well, if breastfeeding, you want a specific type or a pattern that is associated with extended breastfeeding, we had to call it something different. So that's why we chose ecological breastfeeding. A lot of people today just call it eco-breastfeeding.
And are you amazed at how many people this many years later are still discovering your resources for the first time?
Well, I hope there's a lot of people. We try to make it available on the website, and we blog weekly. We just completed a 6-week series on ecological breastfeeding. We had Bishop Gallione blog 1 week for us on how his mother spaced babies. They were spaced 3 years apart just using breastfeeding. We had Cardinal Lopez Trujillo 1 week, and then followed with Pope John Paul II. Then we had an ordinary mother who used just breastfeeding to space her babies. And then we had a Jewish mother. We have a lot of interest among Jewish mothers, and they're trying to promote it within their religion and are getting frustrated because a lot of them, aren't interested, or they feel that they're going to be tied down. And as one mother, a Jewish mother, says, yeah, they're tied down right away with another baby. It would be much better just to, do the breastfeeding.
John, I know you guys go out to parishes and dioceses and take your programs out there. How can people get in touch with you if they're interested to bring you out?
I think the best thing to do is just to go to the contact us part of our website, nfpandmore.org, and we'll be happy to work with them.
And I know that you do a variety of different programs, right?
Well, we have the program for couples who are just learning for themselves, and then we have another program to train such couples to become teachers of others.
Well, it's a really valuable resource that you're offering. The website is www.nfpandmore.com and .org. nfpandmore.org, and we really thank you for all that you've done to uplift Catholic families around the world.
Yeah, if they just search NFP International, it pops up. John's also willing to go out to any area and teach on a weekend in the hopes that one or two of those couples would want to become a teacher. So that's something he's willing to do if a diocese is interested.
So you heard it, folks. Call John. And thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you very much for your interest.
Yeah.
Next up, we've come across the booth for a great organization called Fortifying Families of Faith, and Linda's here to let us know a little bit more about that. Linda, can you tell us what you're sharing with folks here at the show?
Hi, Lisa. Yes, thanks. What we're sharing here is I've written a curriculum for parents of teens. 2 years ago, I wrote the book. It was based on a program that I had done in a local high school for 10, 12 years for mothers and their daughters who were seniors in high school and fathers and their sons. And it was a one-day chastity, sexuality program, and we decided that parents needed more. So I wrote the text, and it's got workbooks with it so that parents can really get into this discussion about sexuality and chastity with their teenagers and all the important topics that are kind of hitting teens these days. So it's a curriculum that parents would probably start maybe when the teen's about 15 years old and then repeat it again when they're a senior in high school.
Does it need to be done mother, daughter, father, son, or can any parent teach it to any child?
Well, the workbooks bring in both parents at different times. Like, for instance, when the mother, ideally the mother would introduce the program with her daughter, and then the father would introduce it to his son. But then at parts bring in the other parent. But sometimes there's a situation where one of the parents isn't there, so then the other parent has to fill in kind of both shoes. But when we're talking modesty, for instance, in the chapter about dress and things like that, the workbook suggests that bringing the father, after the mother's had this discussion with her daughter, to talk to the daughter about, from his male perspective, what dress and talk and words and things does to him as a male. So, and vice versa, there's a section on pornography where then the father would be bringing the mother in, and she would talk to the son about how she has been hurt, possibly by, sexual predators, or just being treated disrespectfully as a woman by men who have, unfortunately viewed her as an object rather than as a person.
Really fascinating. Now, how can people get a hold of this if they're not here and they want to learn more about the programs that you're offering?
I'm on the website and www.fortifyingfamiliesoffaith. It's a kind of a long. It could have been. I should have thought of a different web name, but that's our name. They can search by my name also, Linda Kroc. The other thing that we have that I would want to mention is our program is also available in Spanish.
Oh, great.
Which
Fantastic.
that's a really a big need, because there's a lot of materials are not available for our Latino families. And so one of my translator actually can do the retreat we have a program called Training the Trainers, which is training the parents how to get this program going. So I would do that in English, and Viviano Sotro would do it in Spanish, and we can go wherever in the country that they would like us to, get this going. We have a couple of retreats lined up. I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota, and we're getting booked for this school year, but there's still some openings, and so we go where there's a need.
Fantastic. Such great resources when we're here talking about marriage and families, something like this. So training the next generation of people that will be the future of our church and our world is very important. So give us that website address one more time.
Okay, it's www.fortifyingfamiliesoffaith.com.
Great. Thank you so much for your time and for being here.
Thank you, Lisa.
Very happy to have stumbled upon a very lovely married couple here at the conference. And Bob and Rita Boki are the co-authors actually, of a great book called Forever in a Day. And they've got a wonderful outreach ministry to those who are married. Bob, tell us a little bit more about the work that you and Rita do together.
Well, we've been involved for a long time with married couples, and for some reason, I guess God gave us the ministry to enrich, to work with the couples who are not yet in trouble. And so we have now created a book. We have a one-day workshop we do, and some evening programs, as well as a program for high school students. And we're just beginning to create some short newsletters that people can buy in quantity and get out to more people.
Rita, how long have you and Bob been married?
We've been married 44 years.
Amen. And as we've been saying at this conference a lot, amen. And tell us what it's like to work with your spouse after years of having your own separate careers. Now you're ministering together. How is that for you?
Well, what's interesting is for 3 years, I was sort of his boss. He taught with me. I was his department chair. But we love working together. People ask how we can possibly work together, and we find it invigorating and enriching for our own marriage to work together rather than... We never argued or fought. We laughed and cried a lot, but never fought. Find it wonderful to work together.
Bob, you guys are at the age, not to make any assumptions about age, but I'm guessing that if you've been married for 44 years, that you're probably getting close to the age where a lot of people around you are retiring. And you guys are in this ministry that's very active and busy, and you're going out to parishes and dioceses. Do you have any sense of wanting to slow down, or are you kind of enthused by the work you're doing?
No sense of slowing down at all for me. I can't sit around. I love to be busy, and this is great fun. it keeps us going, but and I suppose it could get to a point where we would be busier than we want to be, but then that's been the story of our lives. So
They're the parents of 4 kids, so I'm sure that busy has all kinds of definitions when you have kids in a family. Rita, what words of advice and wisdom do you have to people that are married out there that, it's tough nowadays to be married? What kinds of support do you guys suggest to families?
I think you have to pray together. You have to learn to speak with one another. You need to have an active physical relationship, no matter how old you get. And combination of those 3 things, we believe, is the answer to the success of our marriage.
Real words of wisdom. And Bob, how can people get a hold of your resources if they want to visit you and learn more about the speaking and the book?
they can find us at readabook.com.
Ooh, that's a good domain. You must have gotten that early.
Well, actually, I'm sorry. I didn't say it right. We didn't get it. It was readabookpress.com. Just readabookpress, one word, .com.
Great. Well, we'll have a link to that. And to Bob and Rita, thank you so much for being a great role model for people like me of what a wonderful marriage looks like.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, everyone, that's about it for this week's show. We're going to close out with a wonderful Mary moment from our good friend Sarah Reinhardt over at snoringscholar.com. But before we close out, I want to just invite you to leave some feedback. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach us anytime through my email, lisa@catholicmom.com, or by voice feedback at 206-339-9272. I'd love to be friends with you on Facebook. You can find me there at facebook.com/Lisa Hendy or twitter.com/Lisa Hendy. And of course, too, over at catholicmom.com, where we love your visits and your comments on the blog. So drop us a line anytime. And until next time, we wish you and yours all the best. Let's hear now from Sarah to close us out with this week's Merry Moment. God bless everyone. Bye-bye.
Hello, my name's Elizabeth.
And my name's Sarah Reinhardt.
It's time for Merry Moments.
I have always seen the visitation as a very tender series of moments, happening despite dusty feet and arduous travel. I can't help but think of elderly Elizabeth, so joyous in her pregnancy, and yet, undoubtedly, so very uncomfortable, greeting her young cousin with surprise and delight. They probably didn't get to see each other very often. It was a dangerous journey, and travel wasn't easy in those days. The charity and humility that inspired Mary to go give me pause for thought. How often do I pass up the chance to give of myself the way Mary did when she went to Elizabeth? When do I drop everything to celebrate and help someone else, no matter what the cost is to my own comfort? Where do I leave my pride so that I can act for someone else's good? And what kind of attitude do I adopt as I'm attempting these impossible feats? The Blessed Mother, unwed when she found out about her joyous pregnancy, left immediately to go and help Elizabeth. She did not linger and share the unbelievable news with anyone. She did not hurry up and get married to Joseph before anyone could suspect the worst. Instead, she gave us all an example. She dropped everything and went to her cousin Elizabeth. Elizabeth must have been overjoyed and overwhelmed. She must have spent a lot of time reflecting on the miracle of her pregnancy, on her husband's muteness, and on just what all of this meant. The 3 months Mary spent with Elizabeth were the 3 months when no one would have known she was pregnant. They are the 3 months when she might have been sick, but not yet really uncomfortable. Instead of using them to her advantage, she used them in service to someone who needed her help. Then, after 3 months, Mary, who was now possibly showing her pregnancy, returned over the rough terrain, and can you imagine the response? Joseph, seeing what had happened, his bride was pregnant, and he knew it wasn't because of him, decided to keep it quiet and just get out of the situation. And then he received instruction from an angel, and, well, the rest is history. But do you think for a moment that the entire pregnancy wasn't uncomfortable socially for Mary? It's not like she could brag to all of her friends about the Immaculate Conception. Who would believe her? And besides, she was so humble, she would never brag. The Blessed Mother surely relates with unwed mothers, and the difficulties and the challenges they face, with the enormous responsibility and the unbearable joy of new life. She shows us her Son's grace and unconditional love, even in the face of a life that's not as planned. Unwed mothers face difficulties beyond telling, and there is no doubt that the Blessed Mother relates with them and holds them close to her as they go through their trials and tribulations. The Visitation is a mystery I come back to often. When I was pregnant with my Elizabeth, I was touched to feel her first movements while I was at Eucharistic adoration in the wee early hours one weekday morning. After I told a colleague about it, her immediate response was, "Do you have any relatives named Elizabeth?" We hadn't told anyone what we were naming our daughter, who we didn't yet know was a girl. We had the name all picked out very early in the pregnancy, but we had promised each other not to tell anyone. The Visitation had never even occurred to me as I sat there, feeling those first little flutters inside my body. Proof that my toilet hugging and love of sleep wasn't symptomatic of brain loss. Over the years, I've thought back about it, and I wonder if Mary and Elizabeth did the same. In that moment, sometimes you don't always fully appreciate what's going on. I think they had way more wisdom than I do, but I'm sure they had many quiet moments to remember and consider. Both women had one pregnancy. Both women had unique circumstances. Both women had pain and trial beyond what I can imagine. But the journey began with them together. Mary went to Elizabeth, helped her, celebrated with her, comforted her. Did she glean the older woman's insight? And did the older cousin, in return, savor the holiness and faithfulness of her blessed young visitor? Just when I think I've exhausted a mystery of the Rosary, something new comes to light for me. The Visitation remains one that teaches me about service and faithfulness, as well as joy and celebration. Until next week, my friends, may the Visitation make you dance in front of Mary's Son.
SQPN, leading the way in Catholic new media.